Oh boy. Well, welcome back to Beer Brackets, everybody. Today we have undoubtedly the most Canadian versus battle that we've ever done, and that's counting our Canada versus US battle.
I feel like I'm underdressed.
You're underdressed for a Canadian beer battle. You're not wearing enough flannel. That's the difference.
That's what I mean. Like, I mean,
I mean, like, you should have like a fur hunting hat on, like a.
yeah.
I have a prime minister, not a president.
The beaver is a truly proud and noble animal. He's pronounced said, not seen, and I am Canadian.
And here we go. We are pitting Molson Canadian and Labatt Blue against each other for Canadian mass-produced macro beer supremacy. And we're going to see which one comes out on top. The highest-selling Canadian beers worldwide. Two of the most exported brands. Alessandro, let's see which one is coming out on top. I see you got your Z-Biotics there ready to go. You're going to...
Oh, yeah, man. Like, can't do it without these.
So you're still
Secret
using
weapon.
them. You're still taking the Z-Biotics before every beer bracket session, and you find it's really working for you?
Not only working, man, it's changed my way of, like, really approaching this. Like, it's life-changing. Like, you try it once, and then you're just hooked.
After you told me about it last time, I got my own Z-Biotics. I gave it a try. And to tell you something, as an elder beer explorer, like we talked about last time, anybody out there who's an elder beer explorer, if you're in our general age range, you know. You have a couple of drinks these days, you don't always feel that good the next day. Z-Biotics is a probiotic drink. All you have to do is drink a bottle of Z-Biotics before your first drink. Drink responsibly, pace yourself, get a good night's sleep as always, and enjoy your next day as an elder beer explorer feeling refreshed and ready to make the most of it. When you drink, what happens is a toxic byproduct of alcohol builds up in your unprepared gut. It's this byproduct, it's not dehydration like everybody thinks, that causes you to feel terrible the next day. So it produces an enzyme, like the one your liver uses, to break down the byproduct. It's real science that works. No random plant extracts. No off-the-shelf ingredients. And there's a 100% money-back guarantee. Use promo code BeerBrackets at the link below. Tell them Joe and Alessandro sent you. Let's do this, buddy. In these versus battles, it's very, very much kind of like a superficial, which one do we prefer? But if you really want a deep dive into the history of these beers and the backgrounds of it, you got to go back and watch the reviews. But it's kind of impressive how these two brands, say what you will about the beers, but historically, they're very relevant. Here we go. Let's see which one shines through. Molson Canadian or Labatt Blue. It actually rhymes a little bit. It's a beer rhyme.
It's a beer rhyme. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers, buddy.
Aroma cheers.
Start the aroma. Let's smell these two beers. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Okay. Well, so they share some characteristics. We can say there's some characteristics that are shining through in both.
They definitely share some characteristics. That's for sure.
But
say what you will about those characteristics. They share them.
One of the two has a little bit less of a sweet presence, and that one is the Labatt. So
yes.
I tend to prefer like having a little bit more of that grainy / hoppy. We're talking about very subtleties here, but just back like side by side like this, I think I'm gonna go with the Labatt, my friend. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm really not a fan. I'm really not a fan of the aroma of Molson Canadian. I think it's just too strong. It's too processed, and like Labatt actually has a really nice aroma to it. It's kind of like you said, a little hoppy, a little malty, really subtle. It's nice. It makes you want to really go in for a sip. So I'm going to go with Labatt too. 2-0 for Labatt Blue right off the bat. It's got a strong.
Boom.
All right, buddy. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Let's take some sips. Let me know what you think. Oh boy. This is so interesting for me.
Wow.
Putting these two beers side by side, because I got to tell you, growing up in Canada, growing up in Montreal, these two beers were in the same category. They're almost like side by side, identical in the marketplace. So putting them side by side like this and really realizing the differences between the two is fascinating for me.
I find it very interesting trying them like this. Like they're so different. Like especially on the taste. I think.
Yeah. Oh my God. Right? They're so different.
The aroma had like some differences, but there were also similarities. But the taste to me is very dramatic.
Yeah.
The Molson has a little bit more of that like sweet, round, very velvety.
Round is a good way of putting it.
Labatt Blue has very sharp notes, a little bit more like bitter presence.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with Labatt, my friend. Like I think that I really am enjoying the way that like grain character and that like sharp hop character is being presented. What do you think?
This is really giving me a new appreciation for Labatt Blue here. And that's one of the reasons why I said this was so interesting for me because, again, traditionally these two beers were kind of categorized together, but I'm really seeing the differences and in a lot of ways how Labatt's really superior. The taste on Canadian is just really sort of processed, that super sweet sort of artificial maltiness. But on Labatt, it's like you said, like nice and grainy. It tastes a little bit more natural. Yeah. You get a little bit of hops on there too. I'm going to go with Labatt too, man. It's up 4-0 at this point. Now we come down to the mouthfeel. We got to do a little bit quick refresher. Oh, look at that. Look at that. I can smell Canada just coming out of these beers. This is what Canada smells like.
like Molson,
old Molson Canadian.
Sorry, like Canadian or Labatt?
It's interesting, though, pouring them out, you can see like the difference in carbonation. We'll get to that in the mouthfeel, but here. Yeah, that's actually like a really sort of, not striking difference, but you can see the head on the Canadian.
On the mouthfeel, too, there are some similarities, but the carbonation, the level of carbonation on the Labatt Blue has this more tingly feeling.
Yeah, it's crisper.
It just like really invites you back in the glass. As you saw, like I don't have too much of a difference at least on the head. Quite a difference, like on the mouthfeel, like even like this, even if there's not a lot of difference head, like on the head. So yeah, I'm sticking with Labatt, my friend. Like I'm really enjoying that.
5-0 for Labatt. Wow. On the Canadian, it's bordering on that kind of like oily mouthfeel. It doesn't quite get there, but there's just nothing to... It's really hard to kind of explain. There's a little bit of that oily mouthfeel, but it isn't as crisp and as sharp and refreshing as a Labatt is. Labatt really has that sort of crisp, strong, carbonated mouthfeel to it that makes it really refreshing, very effervescent. I'm definitely going to go with Labatt too. The mouthfeel's by really far superior. So it's up 6-0 at this point, which is unbelievable. That's an unsurmountable lead. So we know, at this point, we know Labatt Blue's coming out with the victory in this versus battle. But let's see. Let's see if Molson Canadian can get some brownie points here in the finish at least. What do you think about that?
I think on the finish, there could be, some talking points on both sides because
I think so, right?
The Labatt Blue is actually very abrupt on the finish. Like there's which can be seen like as a very good thing. Like it just cleans off everything. Like there's not much lingering. The Molson leaves a little bit more of a presence, like something that like stays in the distance. Like not too much, but just a little bit.
The presence in the distance.
The presence in the distance, exactly. It's almost like a faded presence in the distance.
Very faded.
A spirit in the distance. But a spirit of a lager in the distance.
Off on John Molson's rickety, leaky pirate ship.
Yeah,
off in the Atlantic Ocean.
Coming with the boat. But
exactly.
I will say like that on that. Obviously depends on, but just in the moment, I think I'm actually enjoying that finish on the Molson. I think the Molson has like a little bit more of an evolution. So I'm going to stay with I'm going to stay with the Canadian. What do you think? What do you think? I'm very curious to hear your opinion on this because, I obviously I don't have a lot of ties to those beer, very little, and I'm trying them like basically for the first time or like second time. But I'm very curious to hear your take with your, perspective coming from where you grew up, like, and then how many times you've had them.
I'm definitely going to go with the Canadian too. The Canadian's going to get the finish point for me. And I think it's for the reasons you mentioned. Like the Labatt finish is actually really nice. It's crisp and abrupt, like you said, a little bit of hops, really sharp finish, but then it just dies right away, which is really good because it makes it very drinkable. The Canadian has like it lingers a little bit more. It's a little bit more malty, a little bit more sweet, but there's more character there, and it's actually really nice. Like we said in the review, the second half of this beer is really what I appreciate about it. That being the mouthfeel and the finish. It's interesting that the Labatt still came out at the mouthfeel point, but I think those are the best factors of this beer. So I'm going to give it the finish point as well. So 6-2. So Molson's come back, and it's gone a little bit of, it hasn't embarrassed itself so much. It's gotten a little bit of brownie points there, but now it's an overall beer experience from beginning to end, buddy. What do you think? Which one is better?
So, allow me here to make a comparison that I'm sure it's going to be talked upon. Like,
please do.
But since we recently reviewed some beers from my heritage, I'm drawn to make like some similarities there.
I was waiting for this. I was hoping for this. Okay, go for it.
So
it's so true. You're so right.
So here's my opinion, and why I think like there's differences and similarities. When we did the Peroni and Moretti, I think the Moretti has like you described it very well. Like Moretti is more of a lager, while the Peroni has more of that Pilsner kind of sharpness. I think you can kind of like make this comparison here with those two as well. Like the Canadian being a little bit more round, while the Labatt being a little bit more sharp. And it's interesting because the Labatt Blue and the Peroni Nastro Azzurro, so with the blue ribbon, like there's similarities to in the name, right?
Exactly.
I think that ultimately, what comparing to those two other beers, like the initial presence of these two beers, like is a little bit different, but the finish really like makes them very similar, at least for me, for my experience. So I think actually on the overall, I'm gonna give the point to the Canadian, my friend, because I really like that, what it's going for. I see the picture. It's not completely there, but I understand what it's going for. So I sympathize with John Molson, like going in his boat, trying to go, like, and trying to get this vision that he has. That's who's getting the point.
Yeah, the oldest brewery in North America. This is a tough one for me. Because while the Labatt it's kind of like, I would say it's a better beer in the sense that if you go element by element, it's just much more balanced beer. Scratch better beer. It's a much more balanced beer. Canadian has some stronger spikes to it. But you know what? As a one-off beer experience, if I was drinking more than one, and this is going to go back to Peroni versus Moretti, same thing. If I was drinking more than one, it would be Labatt all the way. As a one-off beer experience, I'm still going to go with Labatt. I think Labatt's a superior beer experience overall. Final score, my friend, 7-3 for Labatt Blue takes the victory. I like how you snuck in that little overall point at the end for Molson Canadian. I appreciate that. I like that. Well, here we go. Everybody, we did the most epic Canadian beer battle we could possibly have thought of, that anybody could imagine. Put these two behemoths side by side against each other, and we have a winner. Let us know down below, are there any versus battles you'd like us to do? Post it in the comments, and we will get to it. If we can both get the beers, we will do the versus battle eventually. Just stay tuned. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
We'll see you next time.
And no matter what, don't forget to close your beer brackets.
I'm very thankful I took my Z-Biotics before drinking this.